16 years and tried to find ways around the obstacles the government put in my path to keep me from earning a living and ironically paying taxes. So it's one of the things that government has a way of doing, slowing down the entrepreneurial spirit. Yes, sir.
Don't want to ask too many questions, except I do want to ask questions. I'm wondering, sir, if you can point, when you are slamming the government's failure to deal with some things, it seems to me that reflects something we're all caught up in this culture and system of what makes America America, and you're pointing to the need for something pretty fundamental to be faced and dealt with, which has not been done all these years. I'm wondering if you can point in your own business background. I understand you're a businessman. What have you done differently in managing a regular business that points the direction that a business like government or a business like business does and avoids, the stuff it avoids doing?
Well, one of the key differences between private business and government is that when we do business, we have an open and honest bid process. It's not who you know and what you know, but we take bids and we look at those bids and we evaluate those bids based on who's doing the work and the value in which we're getting for those dollars. Government has some other criteria that they look at, and whether you believe it or not, I'm just going to say it, we're standing here in the Capitol, but if you know the right people, you can get government bids. If you don't know the right people, you get locked out. And if you haven't been in business and you don't believe that, then you need to come out and I'll take you around town and let you find out for yourself if that's true. So honest and open bid processes would be a great thing that government could do, where every business has an opportunity to participate in the process and the economic engine that is the state government. Because it does drive the economy. Government spends a huge amount of money in the state, and it picks the winners and losers, and that should not happen. Yes?
Well, I apologize in advance if this is not a fair question, but I was just wondering if you might be able to give a scenario of what will happen if that interest is not paid by the deadline on that $1 billion that was borrowed, I believe, wasn't it for unemployment insurance?
The unemployment insurance interest payment. My understanding is that if that payment's not made, the liability will fall to the business owners in Kentucky. They'll lose their tax credit, which is saving them $400 per employee per year. When you add that up, and it's going to be a six-figure plus number that's going to fall on the businesses. And again, why would you stay in Kentucky when you have these unfair tax burdens laid upon you, when you can drive 2 hours and be in a competitive state where you have a competitive ability? So it's going to be a burden on the taxpayers through businesses, because businesses really don't pay taxes. Every tax a business charges you is built into the product they sell you. So it's the trickle down in reverse, is that if you buy a car, the taxes for running that dealership are built into that price of that car. So in the end, we all pay the taxes. It's an illusion that businesses actually pay taxes, because they charge you the tax and then they pay it to the government. Yes, ma'am.
Would you address the article that was recently written that said you're out of touch because Kentucky is not interested in our debt?
I think that has a lot to do with the position media takes based on their relationship with our government. They tend to agree more with the liberal progressive side of our government than the conservative side. They see business as the problem, not the solution. And on our side, we see business as the solution. Our independence as individuals and entrepreneurial spirit is what's driven the economy, not the government. And the government's overgrown. And our point of coming here today is to draw some attention to the amount of debt that the media is not talking about. Because when you travel the state and people say, well, how come we don't know we're $44 billion in debt? And I said, well, you know, is the media going to tell you? Their guys are the ones running up the expenses on us. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
John, I'm drafting up a sign. I'd like you to read it. Tell me if you agree and explain how it might have some effect on your race for auditor.
Okay. The sign says, "No free passes for the rich and powerful." Well, I would definitely agree with that. There's a sign that he made up. It says, "No free passes for the rich and powerful." And I think what you're alluding to there, sir, is what I was getting at with the bidding process. Those in power do business with those in power. And if you don't know the right people and haven't donated to the right campaigns, then you don't get bids. And I've dealt with the city government in Lexington. Beautiful place, looks like a great place to live. You do business there and you peel back that curtain and you see what's going on in the background when there's 12 to 18 people in a community that are pulling the strings and driving the economy. And then you only grow as fast as some people will let you. And to me, that's not free markets. And we haven't had free markets in this country for a long time. Until we get back to that, where the government's not picking winners and losers, and it's not who you know, but the quality of the work you do, we're going to continue to decline. David? Well, I think we've got a clear choice in November. I've been in the private sector for 33 years, and you heard me earlier talk about trying to find ways around the obstacles the government's put in my path to keep me from earning a living. And tried to follow my hopes and dreams, take care of my family, be a good community member. And my opponent has basically been raised in the state government. He's worked for the governor, worked for previous governors. And the key thing that you need to remember about one of the requirements for the office of State Auditor is it requires the auditor to be independent of any administration, any branch of government, and be disinterested in governing. Now, when it says disinterested, people go, "Oh, does that mean you're not interested in doing your job?" It doesn't. You're not interested in the political side of it. And one thing I can pledge to you is that I will be an independent auditor for the taxpayers of Kentucky, regardless of whether you're a Republican or Democrat. We will treat you the same. If you're violating our laws, we're going to try to prosecute you. If you're abusing our trust, we're going to try to get you out of office. If you're spending our money and abusing our tax dollars, we're going to try to stop that. So I pledge to you to be independent of any administration and any office. Now, I may only get 4 years to be up here, but I will tell you this, what you get from me will be honest and open, and you'll know that I was working on your behalf. I'm not looking to take another step to another office. My opponent clearly has higher political aspirations, and at this point in our state's history and the country's history, we don't need people who are more worried about their political career than the people of the state. Yes.
Excuse me. I understand that your opponent is saying that the first place he's going to audit would be the colleges. He doesn't mention any other industry, any other agencies at all. Can you kind of address that?
Well, I can't speak for what my opponent's going to do, but what we're going to look at first are the largest expenditures. That's where we're going to find the largest cost savings. What we need to do is find the largest cost savings first so we can start paying down this debt, improve our credit score so we can lower the interest we have to pay to bond the projects that exist while funding those pensions. So we're down to about 6 years on those pensions before they run out, depending on whose tables you look at. If we don't do something now, we're not going to be able to overcome the debt. Yes, sir.
My understanding is that Mr. Buffett, that's the rich man, right?
Yes, sir.
That Mr. Buffett suggests that rich men, the riches of rich men, most of it comes from capital gains, which are not taxable, so that the taxes that are applied to a rich man's income is at a ridiculously low percentage rate, so that, as I understand it, he's suggesting that we need a whacking big increase on taxation for successful businessmen.
All right. Well, one of the things I know about Mr. Buffett is he likes to compare your federal income tax to his capital gains rate. You know, you hear him talk about his secretary pays a higher amount of taxes than he does. Well, the key thing you need to remember is the federal income tax rate is higher than the capital gains tax. But where did the money that was invested to drive and generate those capital gains come from? He earned it first, paid federal income tax on it. So I'd argue that state and federal capital gains taxes are double taxation, because he paid income tax on it here. He took a risk, invested it in possibly a business, stock, or some kind of venture, and then profit came from that. Well, not only did the money that flowed to him as a profit was taxed for that business, so that money is taxed multiple times before it got back to him as capital gain. So what I'd say to you is that he's actually being taxed twice, and he's comparing apples to tennis shoes when he compares his federal income tax to capital gains tax. Looks like you have another question.
Yes, my follow-up question would be, regardless of those details, which I hear what you're saying, but the most basic fact I understand is that the rich are getting very much richer and the poor are getting poorer, and that there is something wrong in the state of Denmark. There's something, our system is malfunctioning to not just permit it, but actually to foster and feed it.
Let's get them, man. Let's get those rich people. Let's make them pay more.
Well,
That'll solve the problem.
that's the way it appears on the surface. That you're right in your observation that it looks like there's a bigger disparity between the rich and the poor. And what I would argue is that government intervention into the markets has created that growing gap. For example, as a small business for the last 10 years, we were growing. Sometime about 2008, 2009, after the Federal Reserve demanded that Freddie and Fannie make loans to people who didn't qualify for home mortgages, we saw the near collapse of the housing market. So what I would argue about that is it's not the free enterprise system of capitalism that's actually destroying the ability of people upward mobility and